Hey everybody, welcome to the channel. Michael Garcia here, and I have a special guest today, Marissa Cozzolino, and I'm super excited to have her today. Big reason is she's really establishing herself in the insurance industry, really finding her niche and direction, and she's just has a journey, and I think one of the big things in the insurance industry is everybody gets into the insurance industry for some reason, right? Some personal reason, whether it's the money, the freedom. Um, there's always some driving force that drives people into an industry like this, and it becomes a journey. Kind of finding your way and figuring things out. Because the reality is, nobody's ever done this before. Nobody's ever built an insurance agency before, or been an insurance agent until they've done it, right? And so, Marissa, I'm super excited to have you. Just want to give you a second to introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about what got you started in the insurance industry.
Thank you for having me, Michael. I'm excited to be on. So I started in the insurance industry, I believe it was May 2022. Brand new, never had experience. I guess rewinding a little bit, I was an esthetician from 2016 to 2020. And in March 2020, when everything shut down, that's when I stopped working at the spa I was working at. Um, so I knew as I was working in that industry, I did not want to be a technician forever in the industry. I definitely wanted to I had goals and aspirations to own my own spa or at least work for myself. But honestly, that was really abrupt to just lose my job in March 2020. So I knew I needed to pivot in some way where I had more control over my income. Um, and I still wanted to help people because that was my favorite part of the aesthetics industry is really helping people feel good about themselves. So I took some time off of work and I had experience working with merchant cash advances for a short amount of time. But that was phone sales. It gave me experience for phone sales. And honestly, one day I was watching a podcast with Bradley and Sean Mike, and Sean Mike was talking about his opportunity at Family First Life. And I just thought to myself, oh, I could do this. And that's where I kind of got into the insurance industry. Um, but yeah, I started with Family First.
Yeah, awesome, awesome. Yeah, one thing they definitely do very well is they market extremely well. So, not surprised you found them through a podcast, but yeah, was it did you have plans on just making this a full-time career when you saw it? Or, what was your thought process when you saw the opportunity and you first got started?
Like you said, they're very great at marketing. I thought this was going to be a cakewalk. If I'm if I'm being completely honest, I was like, if I'm already doing phone sales, like I have this down. It's just a different product, and I believe more in the product because it actually helps people. The merchant cash advances, I really didn't believe in. I wasn't a fan of helping people in that way because it was basically like a high interest loan for a small business owner.
Got it.
So, the insurance, just seeing the insurance opportunity and the fact that you could do it over the phone, I was like, yeah, I totally can do this. So yeah, that's what made me just get right into it. I kind of threw myself at at the insurance industry, not expecting it to be my journey, right?
Got it. Got it. Yeah, I mean, ultimately, people they either do what they think they can do, and I think that's one area where a lot of new agents, when they get started, is where does that belief come from? Because we tend to act on our beliefs, right? If we believe we can do something, we go for it. But if we don't believe we can do it, we just look at it like, oh no, like why even try? Right. So we don't even try. And so the good thing is you did have that belief, right, to get started, to go for it. Um, obviously you thought it was going to be a cakewalk, but what did you find out? How was your experience?
um, so working at the like with merchant cash advances, that office, right? I was not a business owner. Like they provided leads, they had an admin that processed your applications. All I had to do was talk with the business owners and get them in the door, basically get the application in the door and close the deal. Um, so when I came over here, as a insurance broker, I realized, okay, I'm a one-man show. I need to do my own admin. I need to buy my own leads. I have to source my leads. I have to advertise. I have to market myself. Like there's there's like tons of different moving parts that I wasn't expecting. But I do, at the same time, I like all the moving parts. I like having the most control over my process and like my marketing and where my leads come from. So yeah, I wasn't expecting to be, a one-man show running my own business when I came into the insurance industry, for sure.
Yeah, I think that's one area where people really don't understand what small business owners go through to get started. Because you're everything from CEO to janitor and everything in between, right?
Yeah,
So,
exactly.
and as you went, how was your experience? Obviously, you learned the difference between just being a salesperson and being a business owner, right?
Yeah.
Um, what products were you offering at that point, by the way?
I started with final expense. So I was really only helping people looking to cover their final expenses, or, sometimes they just wanted to leave money behind to their family. I did help a few people with mortgage protection, but most of it was final expense.
Got it. Got it. Yeah, nice, easy product to learn. Um, what would be your biggest takeaways during that time? What did you learn? What did you like about it? What did you not like about it?
Um, the final expense market is definitely a different type of market to work with. Um, they are people, generally people in America, we're all struggling, living paycheck to paycheck. And it's hard for them to keep that policy, especially with inflation and, grocery bills rising and stuff like that. So I did notice people falling off the books. And also there was like less seriousness in the transaction as well. Um, and I really wasn't building rapport with the client with the way I was taught how to help the final expense industry, final expense market as well. So, it was all different types of factors with, how the client's mindset was with money in general, but also how I was taught to help them, not really building rapport and just, you know, facilitating like a transaction over the phone. And that was pretty much it, just to get paid.
Got it. Got it. Yeah, I can imagine knowing you that wouldn't be very fulfilling.
Yeah, no, definitely wasn't. I did meet a few clients, like I'm grateful for the relationships that I have built through that time, because some of them like did really stick and I really do love them. But majority it was very difficult to work with.
Got it. Got it. Yeah, I know I've experienced that too, and I think for me, and don't get me wrong, I do think there's a place for final expense. I do, believe that it is providing a service. But when I got started in the industry myself, it was, high high net worth, like million, 2 million, $3 million term policies or higher. It was cash value, it was annuities, and so I saw myself, to me, it made sense. Like, man, I just helped a family cover themselves for $2 million. So if something happens to the breadwinner, like their kids are taken care of. And then when it came to selling maybe a $10,000 final expense policy, I was kind of like, oh well, like it's 10 grand. Right. Like they were like, oh well, my kids will come up with it. Like I was like, oh yeah, you're right. And I wouldn't make sales, right? So I really actually struggled with final expense. Just I didn't have that same belief. And I did. The more I spoke to people, the more I understood their situations and realized like these people really do need this. I did start to develop that belief, but yeah, it was definitely a hard market for myself. Right. So, um, and as far as the training, was it easy to pick up? How was that?
No, I if I'm being honest, I didn't really click well with my first upline. So I had to find someone, I was a part of like their Zoom platform. So that's how I met other agents. So I ended up connecting with a really nice woman, and she took me under her wing during the time, which, like, thank God, because I thought I couldn't do it after dealing with my first upline. But things seemed to get a little easier, but I would say there wasn't, like, a lot of clarity with the training. It was very, like, technical, right? They wanted you to follow a script, handle objections a certain way, and just dial as much as you can every day to make your sales to protect your families. Um, so yeah, it was definitely very different over there for sure.
Got it. Got it. Yeah, I read a book. I believe it's called The Dream Giver, and it talks about like you're an entrepreneur on your journey, and you go through like the valley of despair, and there's always that one person they call in the book. They just call it by champion, and they help you. They take you under their wing, and they help you get to the next goal, right? So I'm glad you found that, because I think sometimes when people don't find that, they give up,
Yeah.
you know. And so luckily you had somebody there. At what point, Marissa, did you maybe start to realize that there were other avenues in the insurance industry, other niches, different ways you can go? And at what point did you decide like, hey, you know what, I want to actually explore what else is out there?
So I always knew that like advanced markets annuities, that was always available, but I really needed the right mentorship and training with it because I understand that it's a serious matter that we're dealing with people's like retirement funds or just money in general and how they want to use it over the course of their life. So I wanted to get the right training and mentorship, but also um, I was buying leads consistently and I wasn't finding success. And when you spend, and I'm an advocate for you have to invest in your business, right, to make more money. So to me, buying leads was just a part of the game, right? Like this is something I had to do to make more money. But it went over like a year, maybe a little over a year, where I bought leads and I was still just like stuck in the same position. Um, and as business owners, it is important to notice like when you're supposed to pivot, like, okay, something's not working, so we have to do something else. Um, so towards the end of 2023, that's when I was like, I don't know what to do anymore. I know leads is not it. But I need change. I need different mentorship. I need better training. Um, and so I guess that's what made me like, talk to other people and see what's out there.
Got it. Got it. Yeah, I think you said something key, and I feel like not enough agents out there get this, right? They believe in what they're doing, and um, they almost believe blindly, right? And they don't think critically and say, hey, what adjustments do I need to make?
Right.
Right. And that's something I'm really big on is helping agents think through things. What do you need to push through with your business? What changes need to be made? What do you see holding you back? And what can we do to push forward or to maximize your situation, or what you're already doing? Sometimes it's not even a change. Sometimes it's just even like a little tweak, right? But what needs to change? And so I'm glad you had that mindset of, hey, let me look at where I'm at. Luckily, it was only a year. I've seen people in this industry go 5 years, 10 years, and make no changes, right? And they're still stuck where they're at. So I think that's a super important thing that you mentioned. When you did decide to make that change, I know you talked to a bunch of people. Did you kind of know what you were looking for, or did you were still figuring that out?
I think I was figuring that out while talking to others just to see like where are they at, what their experience is, how are they running their business. Um, because ultimately, not that I want to mimic or copy, but I to achieve success, you do in a way have to copy someone who's already successful. Um, so that's what I was looking for. I was looking for someone who was on the right path with experience and like just knew how to guide me through what I need to do next.
Awesome. Awesome. Yeah. Perfect. And so it sounded like the mentorship was a big thing. You know, where you're at in this stage of your career in your life. What are the things that you think, for your agency, for your business, what is most important to you, right? What are the top things that you would look for, or even tell a new agent to look for?
Definitely resources. Resources for sure. Competitive, like if they're looking for, obviously in the insurance industry, competitive carriers for sure as well. So you can help your clients to the best of of your ability, to give them the best price, depending on like what they qualify for. I think that's important too. And resources, competitive carriers, and I'd probably say mentorship. I think I keep going back to mentorship because it's not always about the business, it's also about like your mentality in the business as well. Because sometimes we just need that little push, like especially when you have like a bad day or like you're just in your head a lot. Sometimes you just need someone else to be like, hey, did you work on this? And it's like, oh shoot, let me get right back on it. So I think the mentorship helps with business, but also helps with your mentality as well to keep it in check.
Yeah, definitely. Definitely. I think, this game is a mental game, right?
Mhm.
When you really, really think about it, it's hard, but it's not hard, right?
Yeah.
Like think about what you're actually doing, talking to somebody, in this stage, you're starting to plan with people, right? Their financial futures. And, once you have that knowledge, it's not hard to have those conversations. But the business can be hard, right? Like mentally,
Yeah.
could be draining, clients not following through, people not following through, things going slower than anticipated, um, maybe a decline, right? Like some different things can happen. Um, so mentally, you have to be prepared, for sure. I know you mentioned, you started with final expense, and now you're like more into like the financial planning. You wanted great mentorship for helping people with retirement and really planning out their financial lives. Um, I do want you to dive a little bit deeper. Tell us a little bit more about what you're doing right now, and then also how that, um, the experience of that, right? Like how what does that do for you as well? How do you feel about what you're doing and where you're going?
Yeah. So when I first started with final expense, I was taught to, dial as much as you can during the day, get as much people to connect on the phone, but also one call close them. Basically find out what they need. It was like a really rush process. Like they wanted it done in 30 to 40 minutes, find out what they need, say who you are and give your credibility and present options and basically close the deal. Like present the options, close the deal, submit the application, and you'll get paid. Um, so it was a very fast transaction. So now being with IC Life, I am now more personable with the client. I am taking my time for sure. And it's like more fulfilling because I know like now I have like a real relationship with my clients. Like yesterday, a client I've been helping since February. His policy just got issued yesterday, I think. And so I was like, "Oh my god, I'm so excited for you. Are you excited?" And he was like, "Yeah, I'm so excited." He's like, "The only downfall is I won't be able to talk to you that much." Like that's how close the relationships have been now. And it's like, yeah, I'll miss him too. So I really like the closeness in the relationships, even though the underwriting process does take more time than just submitting an application and getting an approval and denial right there. I kind of enjoy the underwriting process being dragged out because I like to touch my clients, right? I like to text them, I like to call them, I like to catch up on life with them. So I've really enjoyed building the relationship with the clients more than actually helping them with insurance. I do love to help them with insurance as well, but the relationship building has been something that's like irreplaceable. Like you can't get that anywhere else. So
Yeah.
really,
And I think, back to what you mentioned, where it was just like dialing leads, one call closes. Um, you develop a client base, but you don't really know your client base,
right.
right? And when you're thinking long term, about where you want to be in 5 years, would you want 500 clients that you don't know, or would you want 500 clients that on a personal basis, they're super excited about what you did for them and they're willing to send you referrals, right?
Exactly.
Because I think ultimately you got to look at the end game and say, hey, do I want to be on leads forever? Or do I
Exactly.
want to position myself to come off leads, right? I don't have to purchase them. I'm going to have enough business because of what I've built,
Exactly.
right? And so I encourage any agent watching this, definitely start to think about your end game, whether it's the marketing, whether it's your client base, how you show up for people. Um, those are all things that matter, and they might not matter in that first year, right? It might not be extra business that first year, and you may get some referrals in that first year, right away. But what happens is as you build your book of business, you end up working almost solely on referrals,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And I think, if you took any agent, and maybe you agree with me or disagree with me, Marissa, but I think if you took any agent and said, hey, in a few years, you can work solely off referrals, they would prefer that over buying leads all the time.
Oh yeah. 100%. Yeah.
Yeah,
I
for
like that.
sure. For sure. So yeah, I think, I've definitely had those experiences too, Marissa, where, the client, they look at you like family,
Yeah.
like family now. And I think also, we help them in a different capacity. Um, we help them with retirements. We help them get into their first home, right? Like I literally have a client this month who's buying a home that I've been helping and planning with for this moment, right? And so, there's just a little bit more fulfillment when we see our clients reach these kind of goals, that I get super excited about. And I know you're like me, you're very relational. Um, you like to actually see the results, like, hey, this is not just what I sold, but
Right.
this is what we actually did for the client.
Exactly.
And I know you mentioned the underwriting process and kind of how it gives you that opportunity to build that relationship with them. Can you tell us a little bit about how you feel that helps your clients though in the same way?
Yeah. So usually depending on like what the client's background is, right? Um Usually they request a medical exam so then your client could get the best rating, the best monthly premium or, however they're going to pay annual premium. Um and usually when you explain that to the client, they're like, "Oh yeah, I don't mind a medical exam, like let's do it." So it does take some time, once you submit the application, you have to schedule the medical exam, they have to complete the medical exam. And then the insurance carrier has to review the medical medical results, right? So this could be like a 3 to 4 week process just for medical exam results alone. Um so helping the client through that process, that's even fulfilling too. I like to be a resource for my clients. I always tell them, you can call the carrier directly, but I'm here to help, like call or text me, I can help you. So, but yeah,
Yeah.
definitely helps them.
Coming from simplified issue, instant decisions, was that something that like at first was scary to you? Or was that something that just totally made sense to you?
It made sense to me. I think if I'm being honest, in the beginning, I was a little scared of how like the client would react because in today's world, I feel like everyone wants instant gratification. Like no one really wants to wait around for anything. But everyone's been really receptive. They're like, okay, I'll do a medical exam if they want, if they request it. Um, I've never really had pushback, surprisingly. I was expecting pushback, but I haven't had pushback at all. So
Yeah, I always say it turns out people like their money more than the
yeah,
inconvenience.
yeah,
When you really think about it, you break it down. If a $200 premium turns into $100, you save that client $100 a month. That's $1,200 a year. And then let's say over the course of 30 years, you're talking about $36,000. That's what that medical exam is worth to that client, 36 grand over their lifetime of their policy. So yeah, I think when clients really understand the value that they get from, being fully evaluated and having that risk truly assessed to the fullest, um, they're typically all for it. For sure. For
yeah,
sure. So yeah, I wanted you to share on that because I think what I've seen at least is a lot of agents and coming from a simplified issue, they're almost terrified of underwriting.
yeah,
Like, oh my gosh, it takes even like the smart underwriting that might take a week. They're like, oh my gosh, it takes so long.
yeah,
So I didn't have that issue because I came, when I got started, we were fully underwritten all the time. So I was used to it from the very beginning. Um, but yeah, what would you say to those agents, Marissa, if they are looking at maybe adding services or maybe higher quality products, but they don't want to go through that underwriting process? Maybe they're scared of it. Maybe they're scared of how long it takes. What would you say to them?
I'd probably say I think it's best to, because we do have carriers too that will give you an instant approval or instant denial. So I think it's best to have a mix. And that makes you not scared because, okay, if the client gives me pushback, then let's go with this option. And if you don't like this option, well, then we have to do the medical exam, So I think that's what I've always loved about being a broker is having the options to really help the clients to, just make them the most comfortable in the process. But I think having the client go through such an extensive underwriting process puts more value in front of them because they're like, okay, if I have to go through all of this, then not anyone can just get this policy, right? Like, this is something I need to keep to protect my family, to buy my house, save for college, whatever the case is. Um, so I think it gives the client more value, but I also think having that mix between like simplified issued carriers and fully underwritten carriers definitely takes the edge off for the agent or broker for sure.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. Yeah, I think people have to pay their bills and I get it. I get it. Like
Yeah.
they want that quick money, but at the same time, your clients are so much more like I think you said it perfectly, appreciative of what they have because it wasn't just like, oh, there you go, you got it, you paid for it. It was like, no, I went through a process. I had a nurse come out. And so it's just they worked for it a little bit. Right. And so one thing I've noticed is clients that go through that process, they typically don't charge back, right? They got the best rates. They worked for it. There's value through that. And, we don't really deal with chargebacks. And I know in other places that is a big issue, right?
Mhm.
Especially in the final expense market, like you mentioned. So um yeah, as far as I know you mentioned back to the financial planning, I want to ask, based on what you see in the industry, um, share your thoughts on the industry, where people are going, because I think there's a lot of controversy out there right now. There's a lot of people that maybe are trying to be financial advisors, but they don't really know what they're doing, right? And so there's a lot of marketing going on. I think a lot of false marketing, misrepresentations. Can you share real quick what you feel about the industry and what's going on?
Yeah. I think, just being in the industry for the amount of time I have been, it's I've come across agents where they put themselves before the client first. And I think that's where a lot of the false marketing and misinformation comes from. I mean, it can come from just ignorance, not knowing the right information, right? But there are, a good handful of people in the industry where they put themselves first before the client. Um, and that kind of gives, the good agents, the good brokers a bad rep, right? So it really does matter who you talk to about life insurance. And the people who are spreading misinformation, I think they need to be more open-minded to new information. I guess that goes back to ignorance, right? Where maybe they don't want to learn the information that's actually right. They just want to believe what they want to believe, to put themselves before the client. Um, so I think, I it is sad to see. I don't like I don't like to see it. I don't like to deal with it. But I am very happy to be in a spot and in an agency like IC Life where we always put the client first because the monthly premium or the premiums in general have never mattered to me. I know I'm going to write business. So stuff like that has never mattered to me. It's all about the client, what do they need, and how can I serve them best?
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I think what will happen is those agents that put themselves first. I agree. I don't think it's not that every agent puts themselves first, although there are those characters out there. Um, but there is ignorance, right? There's people that just don't know what they don't know. And um, but I'm not talking about them, just the people that do and I'll add this too. I think it's a moral issue if you don't know and you're closed off
Yeah,
to learning, right?
yeah,
If you don't want to know, like not knowing and not wanting to know are two different things, right?
definitely.
And one is okay, you didn't know, and the other one is in my I would consider it a moral hazard, right? Like,
Yeah,
no, you have the option to know, you just chose not to, right? And in that way, you put yourself first because you didn't want to change what you were doing or adjust to new information. And so what I see though is, the people that put themselves first, they might get away with it for a short time,
mhm,
but it catches up,
mhm.
right? There's lawsuits out there, there's things that happen. Um, that's why I hope they have their E&O coverage,
Yeah,
right? But I think, even if the commissionable premium is smaller, but you did the right thing and you set that client up and they have more money in the future and they're truly in a better place, um, it might seem like you're taking a pay cut up front, right? But I don't think you are because I think what happens is you took such great care of your client that they're super happy. They're moving forward with their life. They're making their goals happen, and they are going to send you referrals,
exactly.
right?
Mhm.
Whereas your other client that found out, oh man, this is not a great position to be in after a couple of years. Well, they're not sending you referrals after that.
Right.
Right. So I would say, like I said, look at the end game, look at the business long term, because um, if you're trying to, build freedom, trying to build something that you can live off of, I don't think you can look at this from a 2 year standpoint,
Exactly. Yep.
right? Look
Exactly.
5, 10, even 15, 20 years out, and how do you want to show up?
Right.
Right. So Marissa, it's been a pleasure having you. I do want to ask one more question. We can end with this. For the new agents out there, um, what advice would you give them in finding their way in the industry or, kind of figuring this thing out, right? Because it's a challenge to figure out for sure. So what advice would you give?
Um, I would give, I would give definitely feel out the support and resources and mentorship I feel like I've said mentorship like a million times, but it's definitely important to feel out. Because when I first started in the industry, I kind of didn't care who I was with, what company I was with. As long as I had options for my clients, I wanted to get started. And I think if I did a better job of just doing my due diligence, asking the questions, basically interview whoever you're trying to be with, ask as many questions as you can and get that information and really feel out the person before making any decisions. Because I think that really, sets the path for you forward for sure.
Yeah, I think that's perfect. I think both, it's a partnership.
Yeah,
In this industry, everything's a partnership. And so interviews go both ways,
exactly.
right? Ultimately, the way I see it is you got to find alignment, right? If you guys are on the same page, your values are aligned, your goals are aligned, you're working towards the same thing, then it makes sense. Obviously, as somebody who, supports other agents, I truly believe, hey, I got to give you the best. I got to give you the best resources, the best tools. Um, I got to equip you, best training, right? Um, and from that standpoint, it's like, okay, perfect. But the new agent has to commit too, right? Like
Yeah. Hmm.
they're not necessarily the prize. It's like, no, can we work together and can we build something, right? So likewise, the whether you're the broker or the new agent, whatever that relationship looks like, each one has to interview the other for sure,
Exactly.
right? And I think sometimes people get caught up on the wrong things too. Like look for that alignment first is what I would say. Make sure
Mhm.
your goals are aligned, make sure your values are aligned, make sure um, I always say this too, make sure if you are choosing a broker or an upline or whatever you want to call them, make sure there's somebody you can put in front of other people,
Yeah, that's
right?
important.
Make sure there's someone you can lean on and say, hey, I want you to talk to my broker. He's a great guy or she's a great gal, um, and say, hey, can we have a meeting and can I feel confident that that meeting will go well?
Right.
Right? I think that's key. So
I agree.
awesome, Marissa. I think yeah, that's great advice. I think it can definitely slow you down too. You know, kind of like in your situation, right? You didn't really click with the partner that you partnered with, and
Mhm.
it slowed you down. But
Yep.
luckily, you stuck with it.
Yeah.
You made adjustments, you made changes, and you didn't just give up.
Yeah. That's important. Don't give up.
Yeah, for sure. All right. Well, thanks guys for watching the video. If you want to connect with Marissa, where can they connect with you, Marissa?
On Facebook, on Instagram, on LinkedIn. So my name's Marissa Cozzolino. So if you type that into Facebook, you'll definitely find my business page, and also my personal Facebook should come up as well. But my Instagram handle is MARIIISSA Lynn LYNN. And LinkedIn is Marissa Cozzolino as well.
Awesome. Well, yeah, guys, please connect with Marissa. She definitely cares for her clients, definitely takes care of the people that she works with. And so you're in good hands with her. And she's very personable relationship type person too. So yeah, Marissa, pleasure having you. Guys, thanks for watching the video again. Like and subscribe to the channel for more great content. Got to do this again, right?
Yes. Thank you for having me.